interview.
She's got wine. I've got a drink too.
Perfect. It's when you know it's a party.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, friends of the show and award-winning romance authors, Mia London and Susan Sheehey.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. So I know that you ladies have co-authored 2 romance series now. The first one was a romantic adventure trilogy. Can you ladies tell me what inspired you to co-author together and how it became a series?
Mia, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So I'll take this one. So it's sort of an interesting, funny story how we came about, because that was definitely the springboard for doing a duet this time around. So it's a 3-book series, a trilogy, as you had mentioned. Girls adventure, best friends going on trips together, and they each find love along the way. So lots of fun to write, great collaboration together. One of the things that made it so much fun was that, Susie and I have similar tastes. We've got similar writing styles. It was easy to gel. Susie's strong in certain aspects. I'm strong in certain aspects. It was incredible synergy. So then you take that to another level where we're talking and we're sort of cracking each other up. Well, that comes out on the pages. So, oh my gosh, so much fun, so good. It's very much a rom-com, definitely. So the interesting thing about this is that we started talking about this series in 2017, and it went live on 2018. Well, it was a tumultuous time during our lives. Susie had lost her dad in late 2017. I broke my leg, horrendous break, in early 2018, but we kept pushing on, right? I don't know how to explain it. It's like we were motivating each other, right? So get a document and I would write and she would edit and she would write and I would edit her and we would go back and forth. Like I said, we'd get together, we would laugh, we would crack up. She would text me stuff and I would misread it and I'm like, wait a minute, I want to put that in the book. She's like, what? So great. It was so much fun. Oh, and consequently we won an award for it. We got International Digital Awards for
Yep.
Place number.
Wow.
First place, yeah. In hindsight, we look back and we thought, had we not done this, we don't know what books we would have released during that time frame. Because it was, like I said, so tumultuous, such dark cloud over us at that time. Working together must have been a God thing, because working together, we stayed motivated.
Mm-hmm. So in that sense, would you say it was like therapeutic for you guys to kind of like work on this, like together?
It was for me.
For me, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Like to have someone there kind of like pushing you forward and like keep bouncing ideas off of and everything like that.
And
that's
to get
incredible.
Out of my head, to get the dark moments out of your head and focus on something else and have someone there to push you and remind you, oh, hey, I put another chapter in there. Why don't you go read it and edit it and see how you like it? And then I would read it and I would love it. And I'd be like, ooh, another idea. And I would just take it and run with it.
And what a dichotomy that you guys went from took these dark moments and put it into a romantic comedy, or like transferred it into a romantic comedy.
Oh, absolutely. A complete juxtaposition, right?
Uh-huh.
From dark moment to let's just laugh about this, because that's all we could do is laugh. I'm on 24-hour, 24/7 painkillers. I can't imagine what Susie's going through, because had I lost my dad, I'd be like a wreck, right? So we just turn around and, again, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? Well, in this case, it was lemonade with a straw and some fruit and a little frou-frou thing going. No, it worked out well. So here we are, we're doing a book signing. Where was that, San Antonio, right?
Yeah, we were on our way down towards San Antonio.
So, well, no. So for the duet, so we're in San Antonio, and Suze has this great idea. And so she bounces it off at me. She said, well, this is what I'm thinking. And it's this romantic suspense. And so we're just brainstorming over margaritas and chips and salsa, right? The Texas way. And then she looked at me, she goes, so you want to do this with me? How can I say no? I'm like, I'm in.
I was halfway expecting her to say, no, I'm sick of you.
So it just worked out well. Again, we gel. We've got really good synergy. Our styles are similar. Our humor is similar. Yet because of these different backgrounds, we can each bring something different to the mix. I think it really makes for quite good material, a really good product. And it's live now, so woo!
Yes, it's live today.
Right?
Right. And the duology in that one, what's the name of the duology again? It's Romantic Suspense Duology, live today.
Yes. Cascade Mountain Manhunt.
Cascade Mountain Manhunt. Awesome.
Right. No. Did I get that right, Sis?
Yes, Cascade Mountain Manhunt.
Well, and I got tripped up because the town is called Cascade Creek. It takes place in Washington, in the mountains. And be forewarned, it's a duet, so there's only 2 books. There is a cliffhanger in book 1.
Ooh.
Full-blown cliffhanger. I want book 2 to
So it's best if we get the book 2 too,
Yes.
right?
I highly
Yep.
recommend
Just
that.
get the whole series.
That's
All in one
right.
go. There you go.
That's
So,
right.
I remember days when I tried to co-author stories with friends, like way back in the day, and it took months to finish just one chapter. So how do you ladies make the process seem so easy? Obviously, co-authoring has been really worked really well for you guys, but how have you kind of figured out a process, and has the process changed from from the trilogy to the duology?
I think it did change. So for the first trilogy, we meshed. It worked, and I think that, as Mia said, it was just a God moment. I would write a scene, and she would come back in, and she would change. She would edit it a little bit, and she would take the next scene and just write it out. And we would kind of go back and forth throughout the entire thing. And we had 3 books punched out pretty quickly. I was kind of impressed with how quickly we got that out. And it gelled, it worked. The second series, Cascade Mountain Manhunt, that took a lot more effort, simply because I had a brain block through the majority of those 2 books. And I really needed Mia's help to get me out of that mental state. I couldn't focus. I couldn't write. So she would write a scene. I would go in and I would edit it, but I would still struggle. So she would take another scene that was further down in the book, and she'd write that scene. And finally, I started getting my mojo back, and I went to a writer's retreat, and I pumped out over 10,000 words at that writer's retreat. And finally, I got my mojo back. So I went back in and started gelling all these scenes together. So the process was different, unfortunately, and that was completely my fault. I'll take ownership for that.
No. It's weird because we were both in this different place, right? But again, similar to the first book, we had to motivate each other, right? We had to keep going. If other authors want to do this, I highly recommend that they, again, have a similar voice. That they come up with a system. I've heard some authors, she'll do 1 chapter, I'll do 1 chapter. Then she'll do chapter 3, I'll do chapter 4, whatever. And we would take it sort of scene by scene. In this case, Susie's much stronger with the romantic suspense. So all that suspenseful stuff. And it was, my mind was blown. I was like, oh, this is so good. Like, I hadn't even thought of this. This was so incredible. So I'm sure there's some readers out there that have already read it and they're like, yeah, I never would have thought about this. Really? Snapchat? Or no, snap rooms, whatever you call it. Pattern, right? So anyway, the point is that you've got to find some kind of a method and some synergy. For us, it was the Google Docs.
Yep.
And it worked well. Again, it's sort of this motivating thing when you see that your partner has been in the document the day before, and you wake up and you're like, oh, well, I've got a whole chapter. I better, go over and proofread and edit or whatever. We would give feedback to each other. It wasn't always so much about the editing. It was, yeah, this works. Okay, would Jace really say that? I don't know. I'm going to think on that. Let me sleep on that. Or she would highlight something. All right, I need to come up with a better phrase here. I would do the same thing. I don't like this word. Let's think of another word. Or just fun stuff, even if it was just what colors are bathing suits, whatever. It was complete synergy all the time, constantly getting those right brain cells going, thinking, okay, how do we propel this story forward? So
That's awesome. And I know we've like I've gone on retreats with Susie before, and we've talked to her about like she likes to blow stuff up.
Yes.
And she also and also whenever we have plot problems, we're always like, Susie, fix us, please fix me. I've
Oh,
got plot
yes.
problems, I need fixing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
did you guys
Yes.
have any kind of outline beforehand? And kind of like, I know we all know romance is going to have an HEA, but did you guys have an idea of where you were going before you got there, or did it kind of just the synergy just kind of we just rolled with the synergy?
With the romantic suspense, you kind of need to have that plot outline in place, because there's so many details to this plot that are really important. And I also, you have to throw in a couple of red herrings here and there too. So I needed to have that outline in order to make sure I got these details correct in this scene and it matched these details down here. It's the way my brain works. With the romantic comedy series, the Sweet Escape series, I think we had a little less of an outline there. We knew some major plot points we had to get through, but for the most part, we just kind of let our sick, twisted humors take us wherever we wanted to go, and it was freaking fun.
Oh gosh, it was getting so crazy. Okay, Sarah, it was getting so crazy. We started getting the books confused. We're like, wait a minute, what friend does this? No, 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 that's not gonna happen to book 2. Oh, I gotta wait till book 2. Yes. All right, let me make it easy. Let's not forget. Whatever. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, Mia, don't forget that. So much fun. Thank you. I'm gonna leave you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
No worries.
Oh, thank you. So, you know, it's I don't know, this play off of each other, but when you get to some serious topics, you know, like you talked about earlier, where you're blowing things up, lives are at risk, whatever. I would say that a plot is, you know, much more required. An outline is much more required beforehand. And I'm definitely a pantser, fly by the seat of my pants kind of a approach. Right.
Me too, girl.
Right. And Susie could do that, and that works well. And we'll go on the gut feel. Okay, this is what's going to happen next. We knew basically this is what we need to do and where we need to go, but it was a matter of, you know, sort of taking those steps to get there, and doing it in a fun and innovative way, a creative way. So yeah, you know, for not following a plot too much, I think we did okay. For me, we're not following an outline, right? I loved it. It was a stretch for me to have to do all this. And anyway.
That's awesome. And so is there a benefit though, you guys, to find from like co-authoring a series together versus like either writing either on your own or even in an anthology with other groups of writers in a different kind of set, in a different kind of way?
Well, I've done 2, you know, I'll have Susie explain hers. I've done 2 other anthologies with other authors, 5 other authors. When was that? 2017. We didn't have much of a, you know, we had a theme and that was it. Sort of everything, there was one word, fate, and therefore I got Undeniable Fate and that whole series from there. Otherwise, there was no connection whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
The one I did prior to that in 2016, 5 books. It was called Hard Men of the Rockies. That was interesting because we did have a theme. They were all cousins. 2 were brothers, and they come back and help grandma. You know, she had a heart attack, help her in the house, take care of things. And so each grandson had their own book. Well, I was the last one to join this anthology with these 4 other authors. And I'm like, what's going on? Who's got what? Wait a minute, grandma has a cat? Okay. I had to put together a spreadsheet. I had to figure out what was going on and who was who and what was what, so that there was consistency throughout all 5 books. Oh my gosh. But it's so much fun, so challenging, really stretching myself, because, you know, here you want creativity, but some of your parameters are already defined. Okay, Susie, you have any? I know you've done an anthology recently.
I did the Summer Heat Imperfectly Yours anthology. It was either characters who have a disability or the authors themselves have a disability. And we had all these stories put together, and I really enjoyed that because it was a much shorter story than I'm used to writing. So writing short is outside of my comfort zone. So it stretched me in that regard. But it still was a lot of fun. However, I still had a lot of autonomy to my own story. I was on somebody else's deadline, somebody else's timeline, but I was able to to get it done on my own and send it in and then do editing. But the co-authoring experience, a lot more enjoyable for me, because when I would have those brain block moments, I needed Mia to help me get out of the funk, and she would just say something else and it would spark something and I would take it down the rabbit hole a little bit. So that just all of the banter that we got to share and the life we got to put in all of these characters, it was so much more enjoyable doing it that way. And in addition, it helped keep me accountable to get my own stuff done in the book, right? So
Well,
that forcing you to put your butt in the chair, Mia did that for me.
Vice versa. It was a two-way street. Well, and the fun thing is when we started talking about this initially, Sarah, I had this idea at one point, you know, authors, we have a million ideas of different stories we can get to eventually, right? It's like one work in progress at a time, right? Or it's supposed to be that way. So I had this idea, okay, I'm going to do a bad boy story one day. And I actually had notes. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be my bad boy. And he's going to ride a motorcycle, whatever. And I'm going to do that trope of, you know, the bad boy with the, you know, the librarian or the teacher or, you know, preschool teacher or something like that. So when Susie came to me, I'm like, okay, I got book 2. I know what our it's going to look like. And she's like, okay. And I just shot her the whole thing. I was like, here's our guy. Oh, and by the way, I've got his name. So it was so great because she's like, okay, this works for me. I'm like, yes. Yep. So it was like something that it was on my list, right? As an author, things that I wanted to do and stretch myself. And she's like, okay, I'm good with this. This will work. You'll be a DEA agent. I'm like, yeah, DEA agent with tattoos on a motorcycle.
And that you bring up a great point too with these co-authoring. So you mentioned you kind of have stretched yourself with the duology. So did you guys have you ever done romantic comedy before the trilogy? Like, did you stretch yourself there as well as an author? Because have you dipped your toe into romantic comedy in the past?
I had never done romantic comedy before, and here's a spoiler alert here. This was not, that series wasn't originally meant to be a romantic comedy. It was just supposed to be contemporary romance off on adventures and vacations. And as these characters started coming to life, they had so much more spirit and humor and sick sarcasm in their heads. It just kind of came off onto the page, and we're like, yeah, we kind of need to recategorize this as romantic comedy.
Or sort of add that category.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't intend to. My BFF says my first book is called Life to the Max. I published that in 2014. And that's her favorite book. And she goes, it's a rom-com. I love it. I'm like, yeah, rom-com with me. Okay. First time for everything. But yeah, we did not intend for this to be, again, it's sort of that when you're in the dark moment, what can you do but laugh? And so maybe that's what was happening between us, that we were just laughing. But it was so great. And again, in collaboration, so great when you are stuck. And I would call Susan and like, okay, this is what I'm trying to do here. This is what I want to say, or this is what I'm thinking should be next. And it's quiet on the other end of the line. And you know those wheels are turning. And you're just like, okay, wait for it, Mia. Wait for it. And then she's like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. I'm like, okay, hang on. Let me take notes.
The number of times she called me when I was in the car driving my boys back and forth from wherever, because I'm always in the car. That was my permanent state of existence during that entire series. So I'd answer the phone and I would tell her up front, hey, I've got kids in the car, watch your language. And she would, okay, great, fine. So she would spout off the question and I'd sit there as I'm driving and it's going through my head and I'm thinking about it. So
it was great. I highly recommend authors that are thinking about that and know that their styles are similar. They can absolutely make it work. I know another author right now, she's collaborating with another author. Taking a little bit of time, but it's like, it doesn't matter how much time it takes. It's going to be so enjoyable, the process of both of you working together. And again, when you get stuck, you've got a partner to call that knows your same storyline. It's not like you've got to explain it from the get-go, from chapter 1. She's right there with you. Yep.
Well, that is amazing. I love how you guys have like this, so much great energy going back and forth, and you guys work so well together. Did you guys find any like you had a lot of pros. Did you find any cons working together? Like anything that kind of like didn't work out so well, or any difficulties of any sort? Or anything you're like, this didn't work in the first trilogy, so let's not do it in the next series?
Oh, good question.
That is a good question. And
I don't know that I had anything that I can say.
Because it obviously worked wonderful for you guys, because you
Right.
did two so close
Okay,
together.
Right. So maybe if it's like if perhaps we had issues, I mean, whatever, we were already really familiar with each other's style of writing, that was easy to translate to the second series.
the only con that I can think of, and it's not necessarily a con about co-authoring, it's more just about a con about writing in general. When you write this awesome scene and it's perfect, you don't want to change a word, but something happens in the plot and you're like, crap, this doesn't fit. And having to find a way to squeeze in those tidbits of brilliance in that chapter that we ended up having to cut, and it absolutely killed me. But that's just a con about writing in general, not necessarily about co-authoring.
That's true. But did you find a place to put it in like the next series or the next book?
Some of the tidbits we put into the next book.
See, that's where you recycle it.
Yeah,
that's what I try to do.
Purpose, exactly.
And I mean, obviously, this sounds. We already talked about you kind of like the writing process you guys have and everything like that. Kind of how you guys have worked that out. But and this kind of seems like a silly question too. But do you guys see yourself co-authoring more series together?
I don't know. Are you sick of me yet? I know that she has some stuff on her plate that she wants to write first, and it's going to take however long it's going to take. I have other projects I want to write on right now and haven't been able to touch since COVID. Thank you very much. That's what happens when you've got two kids in the house and homeschooling them 24/7, basically. So at some point when I pick those back up, I have no idea how long they're going to take me. So as soon as I get those finished, and if the muse sparks my mind and it sparks Mia's mind, absolutely, I will never ever say no to that.
Yeah, it's sort of like we'll take a look at our list or see if one of us has an idea or something. And it's been 2 years since we did the first trilogy. So maybe that's what we need to do. We revisit this in 2 years or something, do our own thing for a while and then read through. You never know. I'll never say never.
Never say no.
There you go.
Right?
And Susan, you kind of touched on it really quickly. So how have you been trying to manage any kind of writing time during the quarantine or shelter in place, whatever it's called, wherever people are?
It absolutely kills me that I have not been able to write anything since all this started. For your listeners who don't know, I have 2 boys who are on the autism spectrum. So when they're at school, they have a lot of accommodations, they have a lot of modifications to their curriculum, and they have a whole team at their schools that helps. It takes a village, right, to raise a kid. And each of these 2 kids have their own village at their own schools. And those villages have been closed down, and it's all me. My husband's on conference calls basically the entire day. He's working really hard, and it's pretty much up to me. And so there's no time for writing. The muse is pretty much, drinking 24/7. Not me, but the muse is drinking 24/7, and she's like, yeah, you're going to put this off to the side for a while. I don't know how long this is going to last, but hopefully when we come out of this and things start normalizing. What?
The muse has COVID.
The muse has COVID. She's like, nope, I'm done right now.
Laid up.
Yeah.
Up.
So.
Fair enough. What about you, Mia? Have you been writing at all during this? No?
A little bit. Yes, absolutely. Again, when it strikes me, there are times, it's funny because some folks are like, it's great, we're all at home. There's nothing else we need to be doing. But that is my job, to be at home and to be writing. So now I've got all these people in my house. I'm like, when are y'all gonna leave? So it's actually harder for me. But when something strikes, I'm constantly thinking about my manuscript and what's going to happen, and you know, how do I make my, you know, amp up the emotion or make my characters a little bit more complex. And so I'm constantly thinking about that. So when something hits me and I'm like, oh, I've got a scene, I will knock it out right then. I will work on it. Again, I do not need to write in order. Doesn't matter. It all connects anyway in the end for me. Yeah. So my writing has been sporadic. My kids are a little bit older, so when they were doing school, it was very much up to them. I was more of the babysitter, just check in terms of, you know, have you done this? What about Spanish? You know, what about geometry? Is that done? Do your test? You know, that kind of a thing. Because it's all online. They wouldn't want my help. Oh my God. I'd be like, hey, what's that movie? I need to borrow your to go to the next town.
So basically, tell us a little bit about then the romantic comedy trilogy and the romantic. I know you briefly talked about the romantic suspense duology, but tell me a little bit about both. Just real quick, just like a pitch to the readers about like.
Okay.
All right, you take that one, Susan.
I was going to say, I'll take the Cascade Mountain Manhunt and you take Sweet Escape. So
Okay.
Cascade Mountain Manhunt, they're about two DEA agents who are basically set against each other. The first book, the DEA agent, is actually a cybersecurity specialist. And bottom line, his partner gets murdered and the DEA thinks it's him, thinks he's a mole and killed his own partner. So he actually has to go on the run and try to find out who is responsible for killing his partner and bringing his partner's death to justice. So he goes on the run and goes into Cascade Creek, Washington, where he meets a waitress at a diner, Sky, who is a big-time mystery reader, and she is desperate for adventure and desperate for escape from monotony. And she meets, he introduces himself as Guy, basically, and they
Some
start
guy.
up, some guy. They start up a relationship, and he's always got these crazy stories, and he's always got a quickie comeback to everybody. He's got a great sense of humor, but it's kind of difficult to, you know, get past that first layer, right? And that intrigues her. There's this mystery guy in town, and now she has to dream up, okay, wonderful imaginative backstory behind this guy, only to realize the truth. It could never, I mean, her imagination can never live up to the truth behind what he really is. So the second book is the second DEA agent, Jace Ivy, who has to go and track him down and bring him in. And things go haywire when he finally catches up to him. And as I said, yes, we like to blow things up, me specifically. So there's quite a few things that get blown up in both books. So
Blown up and shot up.
Yes, and shot up. There's quite a bit of gunfire too. So the cartel, the Mexican cartel, is involved in this one. And there's an assassin involved, and it gets a few chapters of the villain's POV in each book. So it's all kinds of suspense, and it's probably twice the amount of steam. So, I forgot to tell you about the heroine of book 2. I'm sorry. She's the town librarian who is Sky's best friend. Her name is Lene, and definitely has some exotic side underneath the prim and proper reserved exterior, right? And Jace just kind of opens that up a little bit. He just lets the bird out of her cage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Sweet Escape trilogy, again, 3 best friends. They all go on their trips together. They're girls' trips. They all find love along the way. So we're going to places like, where's the California? Where was that, Suze?
San Francisco.
Santa Cruz, and then south of San Francisco, and then Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and then Colorado for a ski vacation, also during Thanksgiving time. So, yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell, right? Each girl, they're best friends. You know, like I said, find love along the way. Some of the feedback I'm getting from readers, you know, they love that connection, the love connection, and that's great, and the romance and how that builds, and they build as a couple, they also love this whole backstory of the three best friends. They love to see that, and the snarkiness and the sarcasm, as well as the support, you know, the I love you unconditionally kind of stuff. And I got to say, that touches me. I mean, I love how that came through, and that came through organically. That, you know, we had no intention, and maybe that was a function between Susie and I, because we are also friends as well as co-writers, co-authors. So maybe that's how it translated, came through on the pages. As well as the humor. I mean, some of it was just so easy. Don't you ever bored to wax?
Yep.
Oh my, just buy it.
Oh, that's from the first book, Dry Spell. And that, oh gosh, I love that scene.
Well, and I love how you guys brought up the really.
Wait a minute, there's a few. Lene's got a good one. Shut your pie hole. Like, shut your pie hole.
That sounds like a librarian thing to say.
Pick up the book.
There you go.
Probably the closest thing she gets to swearing, because she doesn't swear. So occasionally she's like, shut your pie hole. Oh, I'm sorry.
Or Holy Moses.
Holy Moses.
Or whatever. Holy guacamole or whatever. Yeah, she doesn't cuss. It's adorable. Jace teaches her how to cuss, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fun.
Bad boy. Quintessential bad boy. You can't help but love him now.
Oh, yeah. You had me at blowing stuff up, but bad boy on top of it. I mean, I'm sold. I am sold. But I love how you brought up the friendship aspect, because that's something I talked to last week, actually, with Kimberly Packard about how she writes women's fiction and like really impactful relationships. That's something I wish I saw more often in romance, that I kind of lack a little bit, is because I want to see more like strong female friendships with each other. And I'm so glad you guys were able to really put that in there and make it such a pivotal point in your books.
That's actually the probably the biggest common theme between all three of those books. The unconditional love and friendship between those three women, and including checking each other when they start getting a little crazy, and then forgiving each other for acting crazy. That connection between the three of them is on every single page, even if they're not talking right on that particular page. That's probably my favorite part of that entire series.
Well, I'm so glad that you guys were able to join me. Thank you so much. Where can people find these amazing books you guys have been telling me so much about?
Yes, so Runaway is book 1. Renegade is book 2. Just any of your favorite retailers. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Google Play, of course, iBooks or Apple Books, whatever.
Apple iBooks, yeah.
Yep. So, and special right now for this launch, 99 cents a book. So you can't go wrong. So pick it up, add it to your to-be read list. I highly recommend it.
And how else can readers connect with you ladies personally?
So I'm at MiaLondon.com.
I'm at SusanSheehey.com. And you can also get up both of us on Facebook, on Twitter, and then BookBub. We also have pages on BookBub as well. And for those of you who don't know BookBub, wake up. Welcome to the 21st century. Get on BookBub. It's beautiful.
So cool. Yeah, so good.
Perfect. Throw in BookBub in there as well. So yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much to Mia and Susan for being on the show. I'd love to connect with you, and here's how. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Romance the Story. Book recommendations for this episode: Dry Spell by Mia London and Susan Sheehey, and Runaway by Mia London and Susan Sheehey.